everybody, to another episode of What Else You Got with Mitch and Margot. Hey, Mitch, what else you got?
So I got an interesting one. Have you heard of a calque?
Spell it.
Calque.
I've heard of CALC, like calc powder? No, that's talc. I've heard
Yeah,
of talc, TALC. Okay, you just said CALQE.
QUE.
Spell the whole thing again. That was exhausting.
CALQUE.
And you're pronouncing it correctly?
I believe so. I believe it's French. Another French word. We're on a
Well,
French roll.
if it's French, wouldn't it be? I don't know. Oh, well, let's. Do I get to ask Google how to pronounce it?
Yes.
How do you pronounce? Because I would think French, that's not the correct pronunciation for French. How do you pronounce calc? Calc.
Yeah, calque.
Calc. Okay. Now, am I supposed to guess or should I click on the next button that says, what does it mean?
Let's take a guess and then you can click on the button.
Calc. I would guess that it means to bombard somebody with so many ideas until one of them sticks.
I think that's called a brainstorm. But good shot. It is a word that is taken from another language and translated literally.
Okay. A loan translation in linguistics. Oh my gosh, I think my tongue is tied today. In linguistics, I already forgot how to say it. Calc or loan translation is a word or phrase borrowed from another language by literal word for word or root for root translation.
Yeah. The video that I saw used beer garden as an example. It is a literal translation from German.
Okay, I clicked on examples. Examples, English common phrases that are calques translated from other language. An Adam's apple,
Huh?
for example, is a calque of the French pomme d'Adam. And beer garden, what you just said, is a calque of the German beer garden. How's that for a German
Now,
accent?
here's another fun one. So, loanword is a calque. Do you know what a loanword is?
Loan word,
Yep.
a word borrowed from another language.
Yep. So, calque is a loanword, and loanword is a calque.
Wow. I'm tired already.
Yeah.
Okay, but I want more examples.
So, one example of a loanword is kindergarten. It's from German.
Okay. Okay, that was the very next example brought up is kindergarten, cafe, bazaar. Oh, and then it says what you just said. I think Google was listening to you. Or you
Oh.
read Google first. It says, ironically, the word calc is a loan word. Well, loan word is a calc.
Yeah, it was a
Woo!
very interesting video that I watched the other day. I'm going, oh, that's a pretty cool find. Because one calque that I always get a kick out of is passport.
How is passport a
It's
calc?
French.
It's from French?
It's French.
Okay, I'm asking my friend over
Because
here.
if it were English, it would be a port pass.
Oh, because French is like passe de port?
Something like that.
I just made it up. I don't actually speak French. I don't speak German. I really, really admire people who speak multiple languages. Do you speak multiple languages, not counting Pig Latin?
So I speak broken Spanish. I am aware of some German phrases. I'm aware of some Japanese phrases. And I speak 4 different programming languages.
I I suppose those should count.
Hmm.
I tried to learn French. I tried so hard. My brain just could not grasp it. I struggled so badly with that. And that was in my first semester of college. And um, I I just somehow I got out of taking a second language in high school because I took extra sciences. And so they gave me a pass, which I'm not sure was a good thing. But uh, I have a ability of talking people into, you know, doing things that aren't necessarily the rules. That's how I got out of high school without taking a foreign language. But so then I showed up to college where a foreign language was required. And so I always wanted to learn French. And so I signed up for beginner's level French and made the silly assumption that other people in this freshman level, entry level French class would be at my same level. Nope. Everybody else in there had had 4 years of high school French. They all could speak it fluently already, and the professor taught by immersion, and the professor never spoke a word of English inside that classroom. I was so overwhelmed, and I knew I had to pass it because it was required for my degree program. Well, a language, and I didn't wanna have to start over from scratch. But, the professor would speak from day 1 in French. He'd ask the students questions. They'd respond in French. And he looked at me and asked me a question, and I just very flatly said, "I do not speak French. I have no idea what you're saying." And he replied to me in French, and the class kinda laughed, and he went on to the next student. Well, so day after day, this would happen. He would come at me with a question in French, and I would respond with, "I have not yet learned French. I am here to try to learn French." And so I was trying to learn it from the books and the manuals on my own outside of class, and I had a job at the library, and one day I saw him walk into the library, and I just wanted to shrink and hide because I could not handle him coming up to me and speaking to me in French again. I just couldn't take it. My mind was gonna blow. It was so hard for me. And he came up to me, stood in front of me at the desk, the counter, and he said in English, "You are really struggling. How can I better help you?" And I said, "By speaking English in class. I don't understand what you're doing or saying." And he said, "I will not speak English in class, but I will give you extra help outside of class." And then he gave me some worksheets and some tips and some tricks and told me how to work harder outside of class. I did pass the class, but I don't remember what my grade was because, frankly, I've tried to block it out until this very moment when you forced me to remember my failings in foreign languages. That was so hard. I had such a hard time in that class. One other time I tried to teach myself Italian. I bought an Italian, learn at home kind of program. Didn't get very far. I just don't think my brain is built for multiple languages.
So the tricky thing, so people who speak multiple languages actually have a different wiring in their brain for a couple different reasons. I actually took 1 year of high school Spanish, and I came away with extremely broken remedial Spanish. And then just because somehow I kept walking into environments where I had to speak at least some level Spanish, I can speak very broken Spanish, not very well, but I can keep up with a conversation barely, and then I can respond horribly, but it's one of those I don't practice enough, but it's just one of those that through immersion. But speaking different languages actually adds a rewiring your brain to think through problems differently. And it's also one of those that one reason why I like going through words in the podcast is because you get to see the cultural side of some of these words, and you also get to see the shift of how certain things work.
Yeah. Words are fascinating to me. Someone told me yesterday that, well, I'll back up. I was telling her that I think I'm a pretty nice person. I think I'm kind. Uh, I I think I go out of my way to treat people well. And she stopped and she stared at me and her eyes got really big. And I said, "What? Are you trying to say I'm not kind?" And she looked at me and she said, "Margot, yes, you're kind, but you're quite the wordsmith." And I said, "Yeah, I like words. So, how does that make me not a kind person?" And she said, "Well, for people like me who don't feel quite as smart as you clearly are, you're very intimidating because you come out with some big words fast and well strung together. And while other people are still thinking about what was said 5 minutes ago, you're on to the next topic and stringing words together that some of us, we don't even know what they mean." And so in my head, I'm like, yes, I love words. I love speaking. I can talk for forever. I, I have trouble wrapping my brain around how that comes across as intimidating.
So I'll ask this question: are the big words you use, are they Latin based or are they Germanic based?
How the crap would I know? I
So
mean,
like
I love words, but I don't think I study them near as much as you do. Your knowledge of words fascinates me. You come up with some amazing words and histories of words.
yeah, because one of the really interesting, so another video that I saw that actually illustrates a very interesting thing. So, um, do you know why beef and cow are two different words? They're still the same animal.
I don't
Or
refer to the animal as beef. I've heard ranchers refer to cattle as beef, like beef cattle,
yeah,
but
now
I use the word cow.
yeah. So let's also shift over to pork and pig. They're the same animal.
But one is the byproduct of the animal.
Yes, and so the reason why they're different things, because like chicken, it's the same word, same meat.
Poultry.
Yeah, well, there's that. But poultry is more just bird. So the reason being is it's the difference between Latin slash French slash Greek versus Germanic.
What's the difference between Germanic and German?
So Germanic is the what German
The
evolved
region?
from. Yeah,
Okay.
it's Germanic tribes. It's basically uh, Northern Europe that then shifts into England, and it shifts that. And so Germanic words are like door, floor, I want to say coat, um, eat, and it's all these guttural words. And the reason why cow is commoner and beef is royalty is because the aristocrats, they learned Latin, French, and Greek, took over and ruled various parts of England and Europe. And so the royal aristocrat language was French, Latin, Greek, because they were educated, as the commoners were Germanic, because that was the language that they spoke. And the aristocrats said, no, they don't deserve that language.
Interesting. Okay, I did ask my friend sitting next to me, Google. We're so glad to have a third partner with us on this podcast. It says Germanic refers to a large and ancient group of languages and peoples that includes many modern languages, while German specifically refers to the modern language and people of Germany. Therefore, German is just one of many German, now I can't even say it, Germanic
Germanic.
languages alongside English, Dutch, Swedish, and others.
Yep. And so those languages play really nice. You can easily switch over, and from English, you can learn German relatively easily. But if you decide to switch families to like French or Spanish, you have entered a different family of languages, and that's why it's harder to pick up on that.
Oh,
And then that's why when you switch over to your Asian languages, it's a different difficulty. And then you shift over to your Middle
oh.
Eastern languages, and it's a different level of difficulty.
So where I struggled so much with French and Italian, you think I might, if I were to dip my toe into learning a second language again, you think I might have a better chance at um, German or Dutch?
Yeah, because they come from the same base as English. And it's because when you get into Spanish or French, those are the Romantic languages, which I believe come from Latin. Germanic, I don't remember what Germanic evolved from. And then you have your region specific ones, because if there's actually a really cool chart that you can find a couple places that say, if you speak English, this is the difficulty of all these languages. If you speak one of these
Oh,
languages, this is the difficulty of learning English. And the
oh,
hardest language for English speakers to pick up is Arabic.
interesting.
And then I think closely followed behind that is Japanese, followed by like Chinese or Mandarin.
Okay, fascinating. You come up with the coolest things. I'm so impressed. I'm so
So,
impressed. But I also, back to your question about calcs, I did pull up another list. Do you want to hear some calcs?
so I do want to finish the Germanic first, and then we
Oh,
can go back to
sure.
Calques.
You go
So
right ahead. I'm
going
all
back to
for it.
where you're talking about how people say you're a wordsmith, you bring up these big words. So
Yeah.
one of the videos I saw talked about the difference between Germanic English and Latin, French, Greek English. So the common people, so if you just talk to any normal person, I believe it's 60 to 80% of their vocabulary that they use in normal person to person speak is Germanic based.
Okay.
When you get into politics, 60 to 80% of it turns to Latin based. And then sciences is 90 to 100% Latin based.
Well, I did mention I took a lot of sciences when I was in high school, remember? I enjoyed sciences in college too. I did.
So the point that the video was going for was talking about how if you want to see how much someone's bullcrapping and what they're saying, they shift more towards Latin.
Oh.
So good versus well improved or exponential growth or the I'm trying to think of a tiptoe around. We need to form a committee to discertain whether or not this problem meets our prerogative of exponential growth to improve existential reliability of such and such versus let's get together and figure out a problem.
Okay. Okay.
So Germanic versus Latin. If you were to break up those words, the first thing I was putting together was more Latin based.
Also, one is more concise and direct, and the other one is just full of
Mm-hmm.
beep.
Yeah. So it's very much one of those that I thought it was very interesting just to see how it goes back to the history of how English works. Of the commoners spoke Germanic English, as the royalty or aristocrats spoke more French, Latin based, and so that's where you have these educated words being Latin, French, and then you have your common people speak being more Germanic. And so it's very interesting to see how these words and languages put together. And that's also one reason why I tie this to the calc slash loan words is we have a lot of Latin based words are loan words because they don't translate very well. And then your common speak is a calc where it takes these big words and breaks it into more easy words.
One more comment on the commoner language. One time I was sitting in an international airport, and there was what I would assume was a grandmother, mother, and small child. And so if I had to, and I don't actually know their relations, but if I had to guess, I would say the grandmother type figure was um, early 50s, late 40s, and then the mom figure was early 20s, and then the child was just a toddler. And so the mom was playing on the floor with the child, and the older woman very specifically said, and I don't remember the names of the towns she referenced, but she scolded the young mother, saying, "Stop using those words. You sound like you're from such and such place. You sound like a commoner. I have taught you better. Do not use those words. And so that's kind of the example you were talking about. And they were talking with accents, either European or more specifically UK. I don't know for certain, but I remember sitting there thinking, number one, how embarrassing to be scolded like that in a public setting. And number two, there was no complimentary language about what a good job the young mother was doing with her child, tending to her child. Uh, it was just beratement for using words that made her sound like a commoner.
Which, since you mentioned UK English, so UK English is a lot more formal, and then you start getting out into Australian or American English, and it's more commoner because it's not as refined because both countries are basically a form of reformed English, where that's where a lot of rejects went.
We came from rejects.
So it's very interesting to see the difference because it's one of those that I've talked to a lot of people from the UK, and they have a much more structured English, as Americans will slap anything in there and we'll use lots of calques and loanwords just because we want to, which then muddies the language. And so we get a very interesting blend of commoner English, formal English, and then when you get into political English or some other elevated state of English. And so it's very interesting to see the different levels
We also
that
have a
English
lot
has.
of really poor grammar in the United States. There I remember speaking with a younger person one time, and I decided to gently approach the topic of when to say you and I versus you and me. And I led it by saying, hey, I have experience as a freelance editor, and I noticed that you tend to say this. I wanted to offer additional information to you that it's actually correct to say it this other way, and here's why. And the response was, I hear people say it this way on TV all the time. Well, yeah, if you're watching a lot of dating shows and reality shows and pop culture shows where it's not actually scripted, and even sometimes when it's scripted, it's poor grammar. And even a lot of pop music has poor grammar in it because it rhymes better or fits with the beat better. And so I think that a lot of US citizens learn their grammar from pop culture, and it's it's sloppy. It's not actually correct, but it has become commonplace, common, um, and so it just becomes accepted in the vernacular, but it's not actually correct. It's sloppy.
Which that's also one of those really interesting things. I've met lots of people where English is a second language, and they speak much cleaner, more proper English because they learned the rules of English, and because they didn't know the slang, they learned the structure of it, and then they come to the actual use of it, and they go, "What the crap are you saying?" It's just the same thing as I know plenty of people who speak Spanish. I've met people who've spoken Spanish, Mexican Spanish, um, Uruguayan Spanish, Chilean, Argentine, and Venezuelan Spanish. They all speak the same language, but certain words change meaning depending on where you're at, and then there's also different slang between all the different ones, and it's we can see that in English where we all keep picking on each other, UK, US, and Australia, and we all speak the same language, but we all have our own way of saying it, and it really just comes down to there is the textbook way of doing it, you have your cultural way of doing it, and then you'll have whatever someone actually uses.
Well, and since you just mentioned that, I love it when people from the UK say the boot and they're referring to the trunk of the car. When we say boot, we're usually talking about a shoe. And I also love the Australians when they say, "Oh, that really threw a spanner in the works." It's one of my favorite phrases. But yeah, I think I got most of my Australian slang from watching reality TV. I love reality TV. When are we going to do an episode about? Oh, maybe we have. I love reality TV.
Yeah, and it's one of those that you get to see all these different ways people use the same word, and it's one of those that it really goes back to Calques and Loanwords, where you see someone use a word a certain way, you ask them where they got that from, and they go, "Well, I translated this phrase from my language. This is what it comes out to word for word, the calc," and it's one of those that you go, let's just take this word that you said, let's not translate it, and let's just call that good right then and there. And they go, oh, what's that? It just sounds better.
Okay, so you want a couple examples of calcs?
Sure.
So we already said beer garden. We already said Adam's apple. Standpoint is German. Breakfast. This one I don't really understand. French, but the original phrase is actually déjeuner. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, so breakfast is to break the fast, is
Right.
what it would actually translate to, which is where the calc of it is breakfast. And so
But I
it's one
thought
of,
calc meant you actually take the word, not the
no, loan
translation
word.
of the word.
Loan word is you take the actual word.
Oh, got you.
So
Okay.
calc is the translation.
Oh, got you. Okay. Break a leg comes from German. Firewater comes from, I don't even know how to say that. White House comes from Spanish.
Yeah.
Flyweight, Spanish. Water stuff, German. Sour stuff, German.
Yeah. So it's one of those that
Assault rifle, ball lightning.
Yeah, so it's one of those that if you look at the word and you look at the English rules on how to use it, it doesn't make sense, which then makes it probably a calc of some form. And if it's a word that you look at it and it goes, that doesn't sound English, it probably isn't, which makes it a loan word.
Well, now I want examples of loan words. Do you know some off the
Um,
top besides calc? Do you know some off the top of your head?
I had a couple. Let's see here.
Cafe,
Yeah,
kindergarten, bazaar, sushi, taco. Taco is not associated to Spanish though.
I don't know where it would come from then. Latin.
One moment. I'm asking my friend. Just hold please.
I think.
So, Nahuatl. I had to ask what it was. Um, I don't know how to say it. Nahuatl is part of
Oh,
Aztec or Mexicano.
okay. So it's comes from Aztec
Aztec.
language, which then was adopted by Spanish or adopted by Mexican Spanish, and that's how it got blended, and that's why we accredit it to Spanish
Yes.
because it came through a loan word into Spanish, and then it came over as one
Yes.
word to us.
And it says that approximately 1.5 million people still speak. I apologize for not knowing how to say it. Nahuatl in central Mexico.
I know how to say it, I just can't think of it because you said it one way, and now
Because
my
I
head's
said it
stuck that
wrong.
way.
Okay, I have a solution. How to but I have to be able to type. How to pronounce. Hello, go. I hit enter. Nahuatl.
No, wow. Yeah,
Nahuatl. Nahuatl.
yeah.
Nahuatl. Nahuatl. Okay, examples of loan words. Attorney, parliament, ballet, restaurant, beef, bacon, angst, doppelganger, sauerkraut,
Oh,
ranch,
Alzheimer.
Alzheimer?
Alzheimer. It's German.
Sounds German. Macho, tornado, patio, cello, opera, piano, graffiti. Are you still there? You look frozen.
I'm here.
Um, Enthusiasm, drama, logic, cookie. I love cookies.
And
Skipper, Bach.
this really just illustrates that English is a conglomerate of other languages, specifically American English, just because we take all these other things and we might not be able to translate it because, like Rio Grande River. The Big River.
Em- emoji.
Ooh.
Emoji. Japanese.
So yeah, it's one of those that there's so many things that it actually California's full of loan words. Now I'm thinking about it. You just go through the cities, and it's just one of those that it's very interesting to see how things are adopted and how they're used. Um, I believe there's a couple of Indian words that we just I want to say it's like Mississippi. Basically, it translates to big river.
Shampoo.
Yeah,
I'm just going to keep calling him out. I mean, I know you're trying to have a conversation with me, but I'm fascinated. Safari. Zero. Zero.
Aramaic.
What?
Is that Aramaic? Arabic?
Arabic.
Yeah,
Arabic.
algebra.
Arabic.
Yes,
Yeah, algebra and zero are Arabic. So,
basically
but
math terms are Arabic.
shampoo. Shampoo. Who knew?
I'm trying to think of where that would originate from.
I don't think
I'd
you can
probably say
guess it.
German.
I'll bet you a dollar. Oh, I'll give you another guess. I bet you can't guess it with it. I'll pay you $1. Shampoo.
I'm just going through the world. Lean towards Swedish.
What's your guess? You're gonna have to pay me $10 if you get it wrong.
Oh, okay. I'll put the check in the mail. We'll go Swedish just because I can't think of an Asian country that would have it.
Sanskrit.
Oh, okay. Middle East.
Sanskrit. Okay. It's pretty easy to guess what country or language cello, opera, piano come from. That one seems pretty easy. Because what country do you think of when you think of operas?
France.
No, they're
That's pretty good.
Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was my first thought. I'm going to almost neighbors.
Yeah. Anyhow. Oh my gosh. Okay, that was fun. What else you
Yeah.
got?
Oh, there's plenty more words. I got other subtopics, but I guess we'll have to save them for another day.
Okay.
So that's another episode of What Else You Got. Be sure to check out what words you're using, see where they come from, and see if they're a calc or a loan word, and see if you are more Germanic based or Latin, French, or Greek based in what you're saying. Otherwise, like, subscribe, comment, all the fun stuff. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of What Else You Got with Mitch and Margot.